Hi, my name is Michelangelo Mortellaro, founder of Mortellaro Law. Here at Mortellaro Law, we have been working with families across the state of Florida for over 17 years. Many of those families are dealing with the issues of getting care for their loved ones, whether that be their spouse or their parent or their siblings, and sometimes even their children, and how to go about doing that in a way that is the best for all parties involved. And oftentimes when we are dealing with the caregivers within the families, they are suffering from what we call caregiver burnout, and they are stressed. They're trying to do their best to care for their loved ones, but they always often have made the commitment to their loved one that I'll never put you in the home. Or the parents, who are often good at giving the guilt trip to the children, is you better not put me in the hole. And so people carry around this guilt of running out of gas and of not being able to provide the care that their loved one needs, as well as function as a regular member of society with their job and their own family and their own things that they have going on, because they're stuck oftentimes caring for a parent or caring for a spouse. So people are often resistant. They come in and they say, listen, I don't know what to do. I'm stressed beyond belief. I'm trying to take care of my parent. As I have children, I have a spouse, and I have a job, and I can't be all these places at one time, and I'm not sleeping, and I don't know what to do, but I promised Mom I would never put her in the hole. And I tell them, I certainly appreciate that you've made that commitment, or maybe your parent has guilted you into making that commitment of never putting them somewhere, and they expect you to be the one to give them care for the rest of their life. And even though I think a lot of times your heart's in the right place, you either don't have the skill set to give them the care that they need from a medical perspective, or there's just not enough time in the day for you to handle all of the things you need to do and be the caregiver 24/7 for any other person. So that often brings up this subject of when is the right time to move our loved one into a community, whether that's assisted living or memory care community, or sometimes even skilled nursing. And what I tell people all the time is the home of 30, 40 years ago that your parents may be thinking about is very different than the home these days. I would encourage you, and I encourage my families, to seek out some assisted living or memory care communities in your area. Go visit them, take a tour, have lunch there. Oftentimes what you will find is these places are really nice. They're comfortable, they're well appointed, they're well staffed, and it's not a terrible place. And what I try to communicate to our families that are dealing with this kind of caregiver guilt is that, especially when it comes to memory care communities, once your loved one gets moved in and gets settled, oftentimes they are happier in their memory care community because there's always things going on and there's activities. They're not just parked in a chair in front of the TV all day, doing nothing and kind of withering away cognitively and physically, because that's all they do. They get up, they have breakfast, they sit in the chair, they have lunch, they sit in the chair, they have dinner, take a bath, and sit in their chair, and then go to bed. It's not a great existence for anybody. So these communities offer stimulation, they offer programs, they offer activities. There's other people for them to interact and communicate with. And so what we find is once the dust settles and your family member gets settled into their community, oftentimes they're happier there. And I'll never say that they are better loved or better cared for, but sometimes the quality of care is very good and extremely acceptable, sometimes way above acceptable. And so I find that the interaction between the caregiver and the person needing care oftentimes gets better when a move is made to an appropriate community. What I mean by that is that if you're a caregiver and you are suffering from caregiver burnout, every day is just a grind through the trenches, what you'll find, like any other time, is you only have so much patience and you only have so much enthusiasm and energy. And once that runs down, we find that a lot of our caregivers have a pretty short fuse when dealing with their loved one. And especially if you have a loved one that maybe is dealing with dementia and asks you the same question 75 times a day, and you find yourself just like you do if you have children, and sometimes they just push you to the limit and you snap at them. But that happens over and over again. And it's not good for the caregiver. It's not good for the person needing care, because they don't know they've asked you the same question 75 times. All they know is they asked you a simple question and now you're barking at them and you're scolding them, and it's not a good interaction. So if you find the right community, get your loved one moved in, you have the ability to go to bed at night, sleep through the night, recharge your batteries, deal with your own family or your own other commitments. And when you go visit, whether it's your spouse or your parent or sibling, that interaction we find is much more positive. It's much more loving. It's much more supportive, because you're not walking in there at your wit's end. You're walking in there refreshed. They're happy to see you. You're happy to see them. And that interaction often is much better. So I see relationships in caregiver and person receiving care. I often see those relationships getting better when the party who needs care is in an appropriate community receiving the care there than if they were still home. So if you are the person who is the caregiver, you're out of gas, you find yourself losing patience with your loved one and snapping at them and yelling at them, and they're yelling back at you, that's not healthy or productive for anybody. And I know that you've made this commitment or been guilted into thinking that you don't have a choice and that you would somehow be letting your loved one down. I promise you, for the vast majority of my clients, that's not the case. So much so that they will often come back to me after the dust settles and their interactions improve, and they say, wow, thank you for helping me get through that guilt that I was feeling and deciding to make the decision and pull the trigger on moving mom, dad, and spouse into the right community, because my life's better, their life's better, everybody's happier. And certainly if we can utilize public benefits like Medicaid or VA benefits to help offset the cost of care, even better, it lowers the financial stress as well. So if you're dealing with caregiver guilt and caregiver stress and all of those things, give us a call. Let us be a resource for you. We are attorneys and counselors at law, and we take the counselor role very seriously. A lot of times people will just call us and they don't even necessarily need the legal services, but they just want resources. And because we have been plugged into the senior care communities and the entire spectrum of care for, like I said, over 17 years, we know who would I call if it was my parent that needed home care, if they needed adult daycare, if they need assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing. What are the facilities I would trust with my own family? And that's the recommendation we're going to give you. We're also going to be able to give you tips and tricks and financial assistance as far as knowledge and education on how to make the money stretch as long as possible, how to coordinate public benefits, how to make sure that you don't experience stress in another direction by not being able to make legal, medical, and financial decisions when the time comes. We can handle all of those things in that counselor role, and we would love the opportunity to sit with you, totally free consultation, educate you on what your options are. And again, the best referral or the best advice I could give someone is, what would I do if you were my parent or you were my sibling? How would I go about doing things? With the decades of experience that I have in this, whether being a personal caregiver for family members in my own family or being a professional in setting up care plans professionally for families across the state of Florida, we can be that resource for you. So don't be afraid. We don't bite. Everybody hates lawyers usually for a good reason, but we're not those kind of lawyers. We want to sit with you. We want to be a resource for you. We want to help educate you. Most importantly, we want to protect you and your loved ones. So give us a call. You can reach us anyway through the website, phone call, Facebook, you name it. Get with us. We can do a in-person consultation in any one of our locations across the state of Florida. We can do telephone. We can do Zoom. We are here for you. So don't be afraid. Reach out. Let's have a conversation and let us help give you resources and education that you need as a caregiver, and maybe help dispel some of that caregiver guilt or caregiver stress that you're feeling. Thank you so much. Have a great day.